I tell my middle school kids that, all the time that, things that you do when you're in middle school, they can change your life. And I think that one moment when she was 12 really did. It really did change her life.
Welcome to Champions Mojo Weekly Podcast with your hosts, Kelly Pallas and Maria Parker. You'll hear authentic, entertaining stories with tips, lessons, and wisdom from champions to inspire, motivate, and educate you. You'll get the tools you need for becoming a true champion in your own life. And now, your host, Kelly Pallas.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Champions Mojo Podcast, where I am co-hosting with Maria Parker. Hello, Maria. How are you today?
I am doing great, Kelly, and I'm really looking forward to the wisdom of Ginny King because she has raised such an incredible superstar.
You bet, Maria. What a show we have for you today. Ginny will definitely have some wisdom for our listeners. Her daughter Lilly is just coming off an unprecedented NCAA season of winning both the 100 and 200 breaststroke titles for all 4 years while at Indiana University. 8 individual NCAA titles. Absolutely remarkable. That makes Lilly the greatest NCAA breaststroker of all time. But Maria, before we bring Ginny in, for those listeners not familiar with the level of stardom Lilly has reached, can you give us some background on why you and I are such big fans of Lilly King?
Absolutely. Kelly and I were just talking about this yesterday. Even though I'm not a swimmer, I am very familiar with Lilly and her accomplishments. Watching her win gold in the last Olympics after the finger-wagging battle with her Russian arch-rival, I was so impressed with how Lilly stepped up to the challenge and delivered the win in such a high-pressure situation. I also respect and admire her forthrightness in speaking about the doping problems in swimming. Bottom line, she's a confident, strong young woman and a true leader. And I'd love to hear how she got that way from her mom. Ginny, welcome to the show.
Yes, Ginny, welcome to the show. You and I met at the Women's NCAA Championships this spring in a very serendipitous way, which is a story for another day. So, Ginny, can you tell us about yourself outside of your role as Lilly King's mom?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. It was a pleasure to talk to you at NCAA's. I'm Ginny King. I'm Lilly's mom. I am a public school teacher, so I'm in year 26 of doing that. I teach engineering and robotics at a urban middle school in Evansville, Indiana. I also coach swimming. I'm a club coach, and I help with middle school to high school kids, that age group of swimmers. Sometimes I go down to the littles, but not very often. I usually stay with my middle school and high school kids, which I'm more comfortable with. I was a swimmer in college. I swam for 2 years at Eastern Kentucky University. And then they dropped the program there, and so I transferred and finished my last 2 years at Illinois State. Just a wonderful experience at both places. Just the camaraderie with the team. It's just something that I just loved from, the moment I got there. So that's kind of my background in swimming. My husband, we've been married almost 30 years. His name is Mark. He also is a teacher and coach. And he was a runner. So he ran at Indiana State University. So we have the battle of the ISUs. We have ISU blue and ISU red at our house. But he's very much a part of our kids' success. And so, kind of together, we, put our heads together and did the best we could with our kids.
So, Ginny, how many kids do you have? And is everybody in your family an athlete?
Everybody in our family is an athlete. My husband and I, we're both Division I college athletes, and we are a sports family. Of course, Lilly, is a swimmer. She also was in gymnastics and played volleyball and ran track and cross country, played baseball when she was little. Our son, Alex, is a swimmer at the University of Michigan. And he also, really through high school, he focused more on track and cross country. And didn't start swimming year round until after cross country season, his senior year of high school is when he started swimming full time. But yeah, we both, my husband and I are both sports fanatics. I mean, we love everything sports. It's that's kind of just our lifestyle, and we spend it going to games and watching sports on TV and playing and whatever we could do.
I'm wondering if you all are swimmers and runners today, you and your husband and Alex. Well, I guess I know Alex is because he's swimming, but
Alex is, he's at the University of Michigan, and he is swimming, not running. He found that he lost too much weight when he ran, and so that was kind of counterproductive because he's kind of his body type is a little more runner-like. He's very lean and thin. My husband and we spend our competitive energy coaching now, so we are no longer competing, but still enjoying the coaching aspects of it.
So how did you and your husband kind of choose? Did you guide Lilly and Alex into swimming, or did they choose it, or how did you get them started into sports?
They actually both started in gymnastics and baseball. Those were the first things that they did. I like gymnastics just because of the body awareness and learning how to fall and some of those basic tumbling skills that you learn. And then I was actually swimming with the summer rec league, just kind of as an adult swimmer. And Lilly just could not get enough of it. She could not wait to get in and start swimming. Alex had no interest. He took swim lessons until he could save himself, until if he fell in the water, but then after that he didn't want to have anything to do with it. So he came to it much later than Lilly did. But Lilly, and we really kind of held her back, because probably when she was 5 or 6 she was ready to go, and we didn't. Emotionally she was ready, but we didn't think that physically she was ready to go yet, so we made her wait till she was 7 to start swimming. And she started in the summer rec league here in Evansville, and did that for 2 years before she started swimming year round.
So at 5 years old, she wanted to go in there and start racing as a swimmer.
Yes, and she couldn't make the length of the pool, but she was ready to go.
At what age did she start showing this real ambition?
She was always a really confident kid, and like I said, we kind of held her back because, being a swimmer, I'd seen so many little kids that, they're excited and they want to do it, and they're 4 or 5 and they get halfway down the pool and they hold on the lane line and they cry. And I didn't want her to have that experience of that feeling like she had failed at an early age. So I wanted to make sure that she was ready physically, that, she could do the strokes, and not that she was any kind of a superstar, because by no means was she when she started. It really took her probably about 3 years before she was, beating anybody. But she loved it. She loved the being at the pool and hanging out with the kids, and so 7, she was pretty confident, even though she wasn't winning races. She just loved it.
When did she first start to really take off and have the reality of, I'm going to be good?
I would say when she was about 9, and this is something I very vividly remember, she was at practice, and she was on a real small club team. So she had started swimming year round at the end of the summer that she was 8. So she was about 8 and a half. And we were on a real small team, and there were actually quite a few senior kids, but not very many kids her age. And so one practice, they were doing a kick set, and she's always been a really good kicker, and she was kicking with the big kids. And I can remember the coach, kind of yelling at the older kids saying, you're getting beat by a 9-year-old. And, for them, they weren't happy to hear that. But for her, and he knew that at the time, he knew that that was going to pump her up. And so for her, that was a big deal, that she could hang with the big kids a little bit. So soon after that, she got a state cut for, Indiana swimming. And so she went to state meet and finished, if not last, close to last. But it's at the natatorium. We're so fortunate in Indiana to have these amazing facilities. So she's been swimming at the natatorium since she was 10 years old. So that was probably, from a really early age when she really probably thought, hey, I can be good at this. I'm beating the big kids.
That's a great story. That's a great story. And that little bit of confidence that she can beat the big kids. Do you have any more stories where she had a real success and that reflected more confidence to her?
Oh yeah, very vividly when she was 12. So she had made state meet and was, I don't know, she was seated maybe 8th or 9th. So we went, and this time it was at Fisher's High School in Indiana. So we went, and I think she qualified maybe 6th or 7th, I'm not sure, but all day, she kept saying, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And she had dropped, I think, 4 seconds in the prelim. And we're thinking, okay, yeah, sure, Lil, whatever you say. And, I don't think any of us really believed it, her dad or I or her coach. And I'll be darned if she didn't win. And so then it was like, oh, wow, like she almost kind of talked herself into it, like she just decided that she was going to win, and she did. And that was a real, like, I know for her, even at 12, which, I tell my middle school kids that, all the time that, things that you do when you're in middle school, they can change your life. And I think that one moment when she was 12 really did change her life. So she just, it was kind of that first real spark that, hey, I can, if I really set my mind to it, I can do this. So, and a lot of that derives from working really hard. She knew that she had put the work in to get there. She had a great relationship with her coach. And so, listening to the coach and doing what he said, and, doing what she was supposed to do at practice to get better. So that confidence is not just something that was pulled out of the air. I mean, it came from hard work, even at that age.
The hard work, Ginny, is that something that you and your husband modeled for your kids? I know that you also raised another superstar. Alex is a classical musician. Can you talk about maybe what, I know you're going to be modest, but what your input might have been?
Well, I think that, some of it comes from Evansville itself. It's a very working class community. We always say it's kind of the biggest small town in America. It's got 300,000 people, but it very much has small town values, and you work hard, and you don't complain about working. That's what's expected. And we try to remind both kids that if they wanted something, maybe somebody was better. Well, why do you think they're better? Do you think that they're working harder, or do you think that they're doing something that you're not doing? And you get that in swimming. You get those kids that do doubles really early, and they get great when they're 10 or 11. And we never wanted that for our kids. We wanted them to, first of all, enjoy being a kid, and do different things. And so I know that she had a lot of kids that were, kicking her butt when she was 10, 11, 12, even into 15, and that were doing doubles, and she was never doing that at that point. And so, it's, well, what you're doing is, the right thing, and you're listening, and, and if you want something different, then, find a way to get there. So we tried to not skip any steps, not go kind of above her level, even though sometimes she had qualified for higher meets. We might swim a senior state meet and swim one event. But we really tried to keep her in her age group and at what we felt like were age appropriate practice schedules, lifestyle schedules, really. There were a lot of people that said, because we were from a small team, oh, you should go here, you should go there. And she was always just really happy. And we didn't think that was something, if you got a happy middle school kid, you don't mess with that. You leave it. So she was always happy where she was. And so that's where we stayed, and, just kind of reminded them that, hard work is a good thing. It's nothing to be afraid of. And it makes you really appreciate what you earn when you work hard for it.
But you're saying appropriate hard work, which I like. Sounds like you were very intentional about making sure that she had a childhood, and I assume Alex as well.
Very much so. We encourage them to, to do things at school. That's how Alex got started in music. They took piano lessons, and that was something that we did because we were so sports minded, my husband and I, that we wanted them to have an outlet for something that they might like that wasn't sports, because since that was everything that we had an interest in, um, we didn't want that to be their only thing. So we, got tickets to the Philharmonic, and they played the piano, even though that was very much not our thing. We wanted to expose them to that, just, and it's definitely paid off for Alex for sure. He's a classical musician, but Lily still plays the piano. She loves it. So, and very much I think a release for her, and, something to kind of de-stress. She'll sit down and play the piano even now on a pretty regular basis. But we thought that, having dinner together was a good thing. And so we tried not to overschedule them. Piano was the one thing that kind of they would miss practice for. They had a piano teacher that they both adored. And so that was easy to do that because they were always ready to go see her. But yeah, making sure that they had time together, they weren't exhausted. So they had, plenty of sleep, and had time to eat, and had time to do homework. So all of those things we felt were important, and not doing too much just to stress them out.
That is so intentional and so smart. And I really hope that these swim parents out there are listening, because that's just step-by-step progress. And Lily has made she's just like climbed the staircase so beautifully. And I think her 8 titles out of NCAA, Division I is truly amazing. And to continue to do that, it looks like she learned that. But my question is, there's the lore out there within all the press that at some point in Lily's early career, she told you and your husband that she was going to win an Olympic gold. Is that a true story, or can you give us the story behind that, when it might have been just like the state championships?
Well, I think that, there are a lot of kids that say that, I mean, if you're a swimmer, that's the goal. You want to win an Olympic gold medal. And so I think all along, after that 12-year-old state championship, we kind of learned not to doubt her. And I coached her a lot. I always say I coached her a lot, but I was never her coach. But there were a lot of meets where I would be on deck. And so I have a great relationship with her age group coach. And we had a ball. And so I think when she was 14, again at state meet, she was just weird. Like she didn't, when she was at a meet, she was usually real goofy, and she was just off. I don't know what it was, but she was just real tense. And Mike Chapman, her coach, he looked at me and said, I don't know how that's going to go. And the 200 has always been a struggle for her. And so it was the 200, and she got done and she won, and she came back over, and he said, Lil, I just didn't know how that was going to go. He said, you were just so different. And she looked at him and said, well, it's not like I was going to lose, and it was just such a, well, what did you think was going to happen kind of thing. We kind of laughed about it. And, he and I have joked about that since, about, well, it's not like I was going to lose. But she's been one that has been able to just kind of take herself away from difficulties along the way. The pool here in Evansville, and thankfully they are in the process of building a new facility for us. It's falling down, and so more days than I would like to think, we would go in, and the water might be 10 inches deep, 10 inches shallow, and so we couldn't swim, or something else would happen, and we couldn't get in the pool because of this or that. And so and she told a story not long ago about when she was little and going to the pool and writing her name in the algae at the bottom of the pool. So that's the kind of facility that she grew up swimming in. I mean, it was just crappy. Sometimes it was, it would be 95 degrees in the water. And so I can remember one year at Christmas, them going out in the snow, like they'd swim a set and they'd go out and lay in the snow. It was just miserable. And so I think that, like having to swim in that kind of environment and not having the best facilities or the best of, the best competition to practice with, because it was a small team. And, we are definitely not a family that, that has had everything. So, she would, swim in an old suit or, you know, let's see if we can find a new strap for those goggles instead of buying a new pair of goggles. So she is not, she's had to make do a lot, I think. And that has helped her not have to have the perfect conditions. Sometimes you go to a meet and you don't feel good. Or sometimes you go and you forget your suit that you're used to racing in. Those things just never seem to get to her. And I think it's from, swimming in murky water. Like, really, I do. Sometimes we'd have to find a place to practice. Thankfully, through the good graces of other teams in the area, they would, let us have a lane when we'd be transient and trying to find a spot to work out. But yeah, she, when she was sometime when she was in high school, she stopped saying, if I make the Olympic team. She said, I'm only going to say when I make the Olympic team. And so that was kind of a realization that, okay, like this really is her goal. And even at that point, I'm not sure how realistic it was, but in her mind, she was already there.
That is such great mindset and such, it's just, you've just painted such a beautiful picture of kind of her growing up. I really am just, it's gold. I mean, as they say, that is just gold, and it really turned out to be gold. Are you guys gonna
It turned out to be, yeah.
Yeah, it turned out to be gold. Are you gonna have the Lilly King pool in Evansville one day?
Well, from the graces of one of our hospitals, they have offered money up, and so it will be the Deaconess Aquatic Center. We know that there's going to be parts of the pool that will recognize her. But just the fact that it's being built, it's a beautiful $28 million facility. And so we're so thankful that it's getting built. We don't care who it's named after.
That's awesome for the area. And I'm sure that your all's success there has helped with that. And now Lilly is a professional swimmer. And what are your thoughts on being the mother of a professional swimmer?
It's pretty cool. I'll say that. I teach middle school kids, and so one of the things that we do is talk about careers. And I always have a few kids that want to be a professional athlete, and so and of course all of them know that Lily's my daughter, and that's I never say, oh well, you can't do that, or that's unrealistic. I'll say, well, do you practice every day, or it takes a lot of hard work, and you got to make sure you keep your grades up because you have to stay in school if you want to do that. And so it has provided some hope for kids in the area that, hey, I can do that too. I'm just excited for her. It's something that she's worked really hard for, and that she wants to do. Not a lot will change for her. Because she will remain at Indiana, and their pro group actually trains with their college team year round. So, for instance, she's been training with Cody Miller since she got to campus, and he was already a pro. So it's it's great for the college team because they get that guidance of some older people that have more experiences than they've had, and just give a little guidance, I think to the people coming in. Cody has been just an incredible resource for her and mentor, and just a real big brother to her. So that's been just a really great friendship that has grown out of them swimming in the same lane pretty much every day for the last 4 years. Coaching will be the same. She and Ray Luz and Mike Westfall, they have, just an incredible amount of trust in one another. And, sometimes, especially she and Ray can have a little bit of a rocky relationship, but it's because they're very similar. They're both really headstrong, and I think they realize that, but there's nobody that she trusts more than him. And, she knows that he's always got her back, and he's always going to do what's good for her. So just, happy that she's been able to be in Indiana and, grow up in that environment.
Lilly seems to both kind of put herself in high pressure situations and also know how to blow off steam. I think I read somewhere that she dressed up as a mascot or does that. And so I think, I tell me about that. And is that, again, something that you sort of worked with her, you and your husband worked with her on, or is that something just that she is?
I think that's just something that she is. She's always been just really uninhibited. That's, I think, maybe the best way that I can put it. We call it her Lilliness. Like, I don't know how to pinpoint exactly what it is. And she has different personalities. Her everyday personality is very different from her racing personality. She says that she gets in the ready room and she's just a completely different person. And I can see that. Really, the first time I saw that was her freshman year at NCAA's. And she was, I won't say she was a nobody, but she definitely wasn't the Lilly King that people talk about now, and got up for the prelim of the 100 breast, which was her first big event. She always swims the 2 IM, but that's kind of the thing she has to swim instead of the thing that she wants to swim. And the girl finished in front of her, and she just kind of looked at the scoreboard and smiled like, well, I can do that. And so, like, really that like savage, just beast mode. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but whatever she gets into when she's behind the block is very different than her normal personality, which is very lighthearted and goofy. And, she loves costumes and dressing up, and she likes to drive people crazy. She at some point in high school realized that it made the coaches a little crazy and her teammates a little crazy when she'd show up with like a McDonald's cup, so, and sometimes it would have water in it, but, she never told them that. So everybody's got their little Gatorade bottles at the end of the lane, and there's little, McDonald's styrofoam cup at the end of the lane. So, she's just very lighthearted and fun most of the time. So she definitely has two different personalities. So, the costume thing is something she's done forever. When her age group coach switched teams when she was 15, and so she went with him to a new team, which had its difficulties, but they're the Sea Creatures, which is an awesome mascot. And so we made like this sea creature costume. It was, I don't know, it was bizarre, but she had a ball with it, and chased the little kids at the banquet, and would go to the sessions where the little kids were swimming and play with the kids, and just very lighthearted and fun. So, she has no trouble blowing off steam. That's pretty easy for her.
That is so funny. I could just see Lilly chasing after the little kids as a sea creature. Oh my. Well, do you think that combination of her being, in beast mode when she races and then being able to, like Maria said, just blow off steam, that played a role in her success?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. I think not taking it too seriously, which is kind of a double-edged sword, because she did take it very seriously and she worked her butt off. But at the end of the day, she could go to the movies and have fun, or, if she had a bad race, we'd, go out to eat and, have a laugh, or, whatever. My husband says she has a very short memory. And so, when she'd have bad things happen, she had the ability to just get over it. And sometimes I do think, to some extent we had some hand in that, just because we'd play little games with her, like her dad, and this sounds terrible, but it was really fun. Her dad would boo her at the swim meets. So he'd say, "What are you going to go in the 50 free?" And she'd say, "Well, I'm going to go," this was when she's probably 9 or 10, "I'm going to go 30. And he'd say, "Okay, but if you don't go 30, I'm going to boo you." And he would. And, the other parents thought he was just this horrible, evil person. But it was just kind of a running gag that we had, that, oh, okay, if you don't say what you're going to go, then you get booed. And, sometimes when kids get out of the race, and, you always want to be supportive, but I mean, sometimes whatever they do, it stinks. And it's okay to say, yeah, that kind of sucked, but, that's okay. What's next? And just, acknowledge that it wasn't what they wanted, but life goes on. And okay, what are you going to do now? Like, what's the next race? What's for dinner? Because Lilly, food was a great distractor for her. Like, let's go get ice cream, or you don't have to say, oh no, it was the best race. And I know you worked really hard, and, you swim a lot of races growing up, and they're not all great. Some of them stink, and that's okay, but it's part of life. And, I know that there are days that I go in that I'm not the best teacher that I should be. And not that I don't want to do better the next time, but, that's just the way reality is.
So you made the costumes, and you and your husband brought lightheartedness. Your husband Booter. So I'm getting the picture of a family that said hard work is important, but we also have fun, and it's important to keep things in their place. Would you say that was your attitude, and was that intentional?
Yeah, I think it's just you don't want your kid to be sad, and so. The whole coddling, oh, it's okay, you'll be, don't worry, just acknowledge that it was bad and move on. Just get over it. That's, I think not dwelling on stuff like that really helped. And there were plenty of things, along the way that weren't good, with anybody, anytime you're trying something new, or you go through struggles as you're going along. So I think acknowledging that, okay, yeah, it's not what you wanted. What can you do different? All right, stop crying and get over it. That's just kind of the way we are. It's the whole, not crying over spilled milk kind of thing.
I love that. So practical. So I'm going to ask my question that's just been something I've been thinking about ever since I first saw Lilly. And here is this beautiful, confident woman, very young, and, she is unafraid to speak the truth and doesn't seem to care what people say. How did you and your husband raise that woman?
The not caring what people say is very accurate, because you have a lot of kids that say, well, I don't care what you think, but they do. She really doesn't care. Like, she, part of it, I think, is she has phenomenal friends. She went to an elementary school that's across the street from our house. And she was never a kid that had a lot of friends. I mean, she had friends, but not, didn't have a lot of, sleepovers or that kind of thing. And it didn't really seem to bother her. It wasn't like she was coming home and crying because, she didn't have this big group of girlfriends. And I think part of it is because she and her brother are so close in age. They're 11 months apart, and they're really close. And so she always had him. But then when she went to middle school, she went to the school that I teach at, which is across town. So it was a new school. And immediately she attached herself to the most remarkable group of girls I have ever been around. I mean, just no drama, super competitive. They all had a different thing. One was a music person, and one was one was the smart one, and one was the animal person, and Lilly was the athlete. And they just were a joy to be around, and they're very loyal to each other still. One of them is getting married this summer. She lives with another one at IU. I think she always had that security of having that group of kids around her that they didn't care how she swam, and so that loyalty and that bond that she has to that group, I think, really helped her confidence, and probably helped all the rest of them. One of them is going to med school next year, so that's that was a big success for all of them. So having that, and the other thing is they're not swimmers. They did swim in high school, but they were not year-round swimmers, and that was not their thing. They just did it because it was something to do, and they all had fun together. And so that kind of that thought of I've got this other life that isn't swimming, and it's all good. I'm a good student. I have friends that I enjoy being around. I have a family that loves me. And so that that not caring what people thinks, she doesn't care what other people think. She cares very much what the people in her life think. And she's just very unafraid. She comes from a long line of really strong women. I teach in a non-traditional area. My mom ran a meat packing plant for a while at a Catholic monastery. I had a grandmother that played basketball in the 1920s. So she comes from a long line of strong women and, also strong men that appreciated that. So I do think that part of that is just bred into her, and it's okay, like you're doing as long as you're doing the right thing and you feel like you're confident in what you're doing, then, by all means, say what you think.
Gosh, Ginny, I am getting so much insight into Lilly, and certainly all these strong women. Certainly, Maria, don't you think that helps answer our question? Because you and I have talked about this offline about just what an inspiration Lilly is and how she's such a role model for strong women. And then she's had you and your mother and your grandmother, and it's just. So this is really filling in the blanks for me. How are you feeling, Maria?
Yeah, she's also been surrounded by friends, other strong women who supported her, didn't tear her down, but supported her. So that's, and a family who didn't take her too seriously and was able to keep things lighthearted. It's no wonder she is who she is. Good job, Ginny.
Yes, absolutely. And I have one last question, which is going to be what advice you have for parents raising a superstar. And before I ask that question, Maria, I want to make sure you don't have any more questions for Ginny, and then that'll be my last question for her.
Yeah, no, I want to hear the answer to that question because she hasn't raised just one, but Alex also sounds like a superstar. So I would love to hear her advice.
Yes, because I've been making copious notes here, Ginny, and I see so many things that parents or could take from what you've said. But what, coach, teacher, mother, what advice do you have?
I think my biggest advice is let your kids be themselves. I know that, Lilly's gotten a lot of flack from this person or that person, almost none of whom know her at all. But, why does she talk that way? Or why does she get on the lane line? And what they don't understand is that's who she is. So, growing up, in fact, right before she left for the Olympics, her dad said, something to the effect of, when they interview you, just be honest, and then you don't have to remember what you said. If you just say what you think, then you don't have to remember anything, which I think is really good advice. But she was never Lilly was never the cutesy little kid. She was never the princess. She was always kind of gritty and, tomboyish and a little bit in your face. And that's just who she was. And I always think about like she's a, kind of like a bronco, like you might be able to corral them for a time being, but at some point she's going to kick the gate and she's going to go. And so when we were going through college recruiting, that was one of our questions for the coaches was, okay, you're going to get this really fast breaststroker, but you're also going to get a kid that's going to yell at her teammates if she, they're not working as hard as she thinks they need to be working. So, you got to take the good with the bad if you want this kid to come to your school. But, just allowing them to choose their own path and to be to be themselves. Alex very much chose his own path with music because that's not anything that we had any experience with, but was able to surround himself with the right people and I think things through logically to make the choices that they want. My gosh, when Lilly went to Indiana, all kinds of people said, why didn't you go to Cal or Texas? And she just really felt like that was the best place for her. That's where she was the most comfortable. And now, 4 years later, 8 NCAA championships later, I think she made a pretty good choice. So, let them choose their own path. Let them stand on their own 2 feet. Let them fail. Sometimes, failing and I can remember both of them when they were in the 4th grade making a C on a test and being terrified when they came home because they thought they were going to be in trouble. And it was, well, why'd you get a C? Well, I didn't study. Okay, well, what are you going to do next time? Well, we'll study. So Lilly, doing it the 4th grade, and then Alex knowing that the same thing's going to happen to him immediately. We didn't warn him off because it was a good lesson for her. So, make them, talk to adults and make their own decisions and talk for themselves. Always, if our kids had a problem with the teacher, our solution was always, you got to go talk to them. You got to tell them what the problem is. And then, if you need something else, we will take that next step, but it's always your responsibility. So making them accountable for what they do and listening to them when they have problems, but not letting them whine about it or dwell on it. Every kid is going to run into roadblocks here or there. And you have to be compassionate without enabling them, I think.
That definitely sums it up. And that was a question that I had written down that I didn't ask, but you kind of answered it with that last one is, did Lilly have any failures and how did you deal with those?
Oh, yeah, all along. Her very first U.S. club meet, she swam 10 events and she got disqualified in 5 of the 10. So, and my story with that is I had prepared her for that, because I was a swimmer. I said, you're going to get disqualified, listen to the officials, learn what you did. But I hadn't prepared my husband and he was losing his mind. What do you mean she got disqualified again? So that kind of started it off, right off the bat. But yeah, she was a phenomenal high school swimmer and did not win the high school state meet until she was a senior. Bethany Gallett, who swam at Penn High School and at Texas A&M. She was runner-up at World Championships in the 200 breast. She also is from Indiana and 18 months older than Lilly. So, every state meet, Lilly got her butt kicked by Bethany until Bethany graduated. And so that was and the kids at home would say, oh, I thought you were this great swimmer. How come you didn't win? And, I think her junior year, she was Bethany was first in the country and Lilly was second. They both broke a minute and Lilly didn't win her high school state meet. So I think that was one of them. And really they're good friends. They have traveled together and are USA teammates together and, have gotten to the point that they have a close friendship. But at the same time, Bethany's like that, that one person growing up that could always just stick it to her. And they're from 2 completely different ends of the state, so they didn't see each other, very often, but all through high school and then again all through college. So yeah, that was one. She was second for a long time. She was second at World University Games. She was second at actually to Yulia Efimova at U.S. Nationals in 2015 when she was a freshman. And I think that's the last time she's lost a 100-meter breaststroke. And she said, I just feel like I'm the queen of second, And so that was, at NCAA, she decided that she was not going to do that anymore. So yeah, all along, and gosh, I remember that, those state meets coming home, it's about a 3-hour drive home from Indianapolis. And man, it was, who gets the short straw to ride with her on the way home, because that was not fun. But, the first hour would be rough and then, she'd get over it and, that was the end of it. So, yeah. I think in order to be good at anything, you have to get through those setbacks.
Just like you said, you just put it behind you. Is that the way you guys did it? After an hour, she was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Ginny, I could literally talk to you all day. You're so engaging and candid, and I can see where Lilly gets it. I mean, this is just, I haven't met your husband, and I'm sure he's just as wonderful, but really, this has just been fantastic and given us some real insight into Lilly's success, and we cannot thank you enough for spending so much time with us. Maria, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree. Ginny, thank you so much. You do sound like an amazing mother coach. So
We
thanks,
got really lucky. We had two easy kids, so that helped.
and you're very modest as well. But thanks so much for sharing these tips and this time with us, and helping us to have some more insights into how to raise a superstar.
Thank you.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Wow, Maria, what a great interview with Ginny King. I just enjoyed that so much. What are your main take-homes?
Well, that Lilly won the parent lottery. She has a great mom and I'm sure father too. And I think for me, the take-home message on that, if you're trying to raise a superstar, is don't take them too seriously. Help them to have fun. Make sure that they have a childhood. Make sure that there's sort of a mix of, this is you have to work hard if you want to accomplish something, but you should also have fun, and when you succeed, terrific. And when you fail, oh well, come on, let's just go on to the next day. I loved her, I hate to call it Midwestern, I guess, but it's sort of just very practical attitude, and also very loving in a different sense.
Maria, I totally agree with your takeaways there for parents to raise a superstar. And I made notes, and it was just unlike a lot of very serious swim parents, the Kings seem to have put balance into their children's lives. So friends, a lot of fun, other activities. It's very impressive that Lilly plays the piano, that they had fun and they didn't take losses too seriously, and they didn't put a lot of pressure, which was the question that you and I both came in with. How does this young woman take so much pressure? And I think it's because when she steps off the block, she's got friends and fun and family, and she's not all about swimming. So those were just some really great takeaways.
Agreed. She's and Alex sounds like just an incredible person too. So what a great set of parents there. Thanks. So grateful to Ginny for sharing her time with us today.
Yes. Well, that will wrap up the show today, which is on raising a superstar. And we will have the quote of the week for you before we close. Thanks for listening.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us. Have a great week.
Our quote of the week comes to us from Sue Atkins. There's no such thing as a perfect parent, so just be a real one.
We are so grateful that you spent this time with us today, and we hope that you heard something that inspired, motivated, and educated you. Signing off for myself and my champion co-host, Maria Parker, we hope you'll join us again soon, and we know you can be a champion. Thank you for listening, and please see below for a copy of the show notes for any links or important information that we've referenced here.
You've been listening to the Champions Mojo podcast, designed to make you feel inspired, motivated, and educated. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Also visit championsmojo.com to learn more.